All right. Welcome, everyone. I hope that you guys are doing well. I'm going to hold off just a second on that while I kind of do my little introduction. Been going back through the Barry Morphew arrest affidavit, discovery documents, and such. There's a couple of things that really stand out to me. And one is that on May the 13th, Barry Morphew was being interviewed, obviously, by the FBI and, I'm sorry, CBI, Colorado Bureau of Investigation. And I think it is incredibly interesting that he told them, hold on, I'm going back up to where this, so I get the exact words. They're asking him if he took anything into the hotel room in Broomfield, if he took anything with him other than his book bag, right? He's one of these adult men that carries clothes and stuff around in his book bag, I suppose. Um, he very clearly says no. And then they ask him, well, did you take any documents in to the hotel with you? And guess what Barry says? Nope, did not. No documents. And the cops, Grissing, he even says, well, are you sure? Because, like, I think somebody found some documents that were left in the room. So Grissing is actually trying to help out old Barry, right? To try to give him a little bit of help here. And Barry says, "Oh, well, there were other people in the room after me." Okay, and so then there are those of you who say, "Okay, well, maybe someone's trying to frame Barry. Maybe Barry really didn't have documents in the hotel room with him, and whoever was in the hotel room after him, maybe they planted those documents as if to set him up, correct?" But here's the problem. The FBI or the CBI, they actually have hotel video photographs where Barry Morphew is clearly seen carrying not one document, not one piece of mail. He is carrying with him a file or a spiral notebook, or it could be a manila file that is overflowing with papers. And they make note of the fact that it looks like the papers are just like falling out of it because there's so much in this file. Isn't that interesting? So I'm curious if Barry has this realization, or if Lyris Eton, thank you, AK Rocks, if Lyris Eton, has she read the discovery? Is she aware of these little things that Barry lied about that were enormous lies? It's a huge lie to say, no, I only carried my book bag and I did not carry any documents. And Grusing says, now, are you sure about those documents, Barry? I did not take documents, and there were people in that room after me. I think you better look at them. And we have, thank you, Holiday Inn, we have actual photographs, video even, of Barry walking into the Holiday Inn Express, walking down the hallway, either toward his room or leaving his room. And I think he's going toward his room. And you can see in his hand this container of papers. And in the paperwork, it's described as Barry's carrying a file or a notebook that is overflowing with haphazard papers. That the papers are disorderly. They look like they've just been shoved in there. It's a big old fat lie, Lyris Eton. So what do you do with that? Because it leads one to say, wait a minute, why would Barry lie about that? That seems so benign. Plenty of business owners carry in papers, work papers, and such when they go into their hotel room. It's the norm, not the exception. So it's very curious, isn't it, about what could have been in those papers that Barry felt protective of. Very, very interesting. Also, don't forget the other thing that is very interesting, the phone call to Gene, Suzanne's father. The phone call to him, angrily speaking to Gene, saying, you know what, you call your sons and you tell them that your money has been paid back. You tell them that you got your $100,000. There was an awful lot of big events that happened supposedly on the 9th that all happened on the same day. Why? If they're completely independent and not related, that would be hard to believe. Like Martin said the other day, Barry could the the statistical likelihood of those convening events, he really could have won the lottery 3 times over. That that day, the 8th into the 9th, the day of the night, that was an eventful day. It was big. Big things happened. Why? All right. So don't forget about that piece of paper, leaving the one piece of mail in the trash can, Barry absolutely flatly denying having any papers, and then Holiday Inn Express going, but wait, we have evidence. And he, in fact, took in a whole file of papers, and yet he lied. It's very, very curious why the lie. Okay. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about, chilling, y'all hang with me because this is crazy. So the audio recording pin that was later found in this basket that was in Suzanne's closet, and it was lying there in her, kind of like an undie drawer, but it was a little wicker basket. It was not just the pen. It wasn't like the pen was just taken and hidden. It was all of it. It was the whole thing. It was the pen. It was the headphones from which to listen to the pen. It was the power cord. It was the whole kit and caboodle. Okay. It was everything. And most of the recordings had been deleted. They were able to retrieve 2 of the recordings. One of them was clearly a fight between Suzanne and Barry. It was pretty volatile fight. The other, though, was Barry on this trip, right? He's driving somewhere. And as he's going on the trip, he's listening to forensic files, I believe. The pen recorded 2 men's voices. One was self-identified as Barry. Yes, that's me. If I having the argument fight with Suzanne. The other male voice was identified by Suzanne herself. She called the guy Jeff. And so that's part of the reason why I think that it may have allegedly, possibly, in my opinion, been Barry that was friending all these people on Facebook. 3 of them had the name Jeff. I think he was trying to figure out which Jeff it was, right? I think he had access to this pen and these recordings, and he knew there was now an affair partner, and he's trying to figure out which one it is. Is it somebody that's in Indiana or Illinois, somebody we've known? Maybe Suzanne made some kind of comment about ha 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 when we were in high school, and so very sort of being a detective, and he's on the case, and he's like, okay, well, I know it's got to be somebody I know, and so how many Jeffs do we know, right? And so he goes through and tries to find them. I think that may have been what that was. But interestingly, as he's taken this trip to Pueblo, March of 22nd, 2020, the pen picks up multiple episodes of forensic files. He listened to stories about the killing of Mary Lee Wilson and Donna Payant by Lemuel Smith. But then he also listened to a story about the murder of a child, Vicky Lynn Hoskinson, who went missing riding her bike. The sister finds the bike. There's pink. When they find the guy they believe did it, they find, there's a scraped piece of pink paint off the bicycle, and they ultimately find pink paint on the car of the guy that was found guilty. And so, this was interesting because when Suzanne was found missing, it was the whole bicycle theme, right? She was on this bicycle, something happened, she wrecked, or an animal got her, or somebody abducted her and threw the bike down the hill. Whatever it was, the bike was a part of this. And so as you go through and you read the document, the arrest affidavit, the discovery files, it says, and I quote, Hoskinson's sister finds the bike and discussed it was found in the middle of the road. The case began as a missing child. The family pleaded on television for her return. Discussion also includes the location of Hoskinson's body in Tucson in a remote location, and how animals had scavenged the bones, and investigators were trying to determine when she was killed. All right. And that was from the actual police document questioning and arrest affidavit. So now I want to transfer, and I want to actually listen to more detail about Vicky Lynn Hoskinson and the aftermath, where they actually located and find her body. Because we have to remember, and you guys know I'm a psychologist, so I'm always trying to figure out what are they thinking, like what's in their head in that moment, what have they been exposed to, what could be shaping their thoughts and their decisions and their behavior. And so I wanted to listen to this story of these people that were killed, that Barry actually listened to these stories, because now this is in his mind, and it might affect the way he thinks about things and the way he views things. Okay. So that brings me up to what you're about to listen to, which is a video that I found discussing the abduction and murder of Vicky Lynn Hoskinson, and then the aftermath of finding her body. So here we go. It's not very long.
Vicky Lynn was 8 years old, and it was on Monday, September 17th, that her mom let her go on her own for the first time. I mean, they always had a buddy system, and this was her first time. She was very excited to go mail a letter. It was a birthday card to her aunt. 20 minutes went by, and she did not come back. And that's when her mom got very nervous, and she sent out her sister, Stephanie, to look for her. So Stephanie went out and she looked and looked. And lo and behold, about a block away from the elementary school, there on the ground was little Vicky's bike, just laying in the road. Well, she came back home, she told her mom, and they knew something dreadful may have happened. Now, what's amazing is that within few hours, just a few hours, the police had already set up a command center. Boy, hats off to the police. Whatever a section in Tucson, you really just have to take your hat off. They already started putting some pieces together very quickly. And we had a witness come forward. He was a coach at the school. His name was Sam Hall. And if you ask me, Sam Hall was a smart guy and a hero because he saw a strange driver who was making strange gestures and jerking with his stick shift and making faces. So he took down the license plate. Actually, he memorized the license plate. They very quickly determined.
Now, do y'all remember way back at the beginning when Suzanne first went missing? We were getting some little drips and drops of information. Do you remember the little rumor that got spread about, but nobody was ever able to really pin down who actually said this? Did it come from police? Did it get reported to police? And I remember that I believe Plunder was also trying to figure out who started this rumor. And the rumor was that someone had seen a woman in a car, like an SUV or a crossover, and that she was gesturing wildly through the window, saying something like, "Help me, I'm being abducted." Do y'all remember that? And it was weird because you think, gosh, that's a huge clue. Why aren't they putting out like the type of vehicle, the person that saw this? Why aren't they being interviewed on TV? Like that's crazy, really. And no one could ever pin down who said it, when they said it, why they said it, and it never came out on a bigger platform. The police never put out any information like, oh, we're looking for a white Elantra. We never got any of that. So who would put out such a detailed, curious, and parallel story or sighting as what was reported in the story about Vicky Lynn Hoskinson? That there was, in fact, a report by the coach who is the witness to seeing this guy obviously fighting with something in his car. So that was real. Isn't it curious that in the missing case of Suzanne Morphew, a bicycle is found abandoned on the side of the road, and then some bozo spreads this rumor that does nothing but complicate things? Stay with me on this. There's more.
That the driver was a guy by the name of Frank Jarvis Atwood. And they brought him right in. They got him in the interview room. And as all these cowards do, they just start to spin their lies. And the big lie that was going on here, because there was blood found on him, that he blamed on stabbing a drug dealer. Well, an accident reconstructionist had a different opinion, because they took little Vicky's bike and they matched that pink paint up to his bumper. And along with a lot of other evidence, they basically pinned him to the wall. But this coward wouldn't talk. They gathered more and more evidence on him, but this coward would have nothing to say. You look at his picture on the internet, I was just looking, and he is one of the most pathetic people that I've ever seen. He's like grinning in his mugshot. You know what he reminds me of?
So you know what you're looking at, right? That's that blank, disconnected stare of a psychopath. They're not in touch with the environment. They're, I guess, internally focused, perhaps is a good way to describe it. So it's disconcerting because you can tell that it's like a snake or a shark looking at their eyes. It just seems to be like marbles. They're dead. There's no expression behind them.
He looks like the Halloween evil jack-o'-lantern, the grinner. We'll just call him the grinner. Anyway, they had him pretty much pinned, but he wouldn't talk. You think he would tell where she was? No. So the poor parents had to suffer along with everybody else, wondering. And it took a hiker on April 12th, 1985, which is about 7 months later.
Listen.
That found a small human skull to determine through dental records that little Vicky Lynn was, in fact, dead.
That is where they found her, people. That is where they found her. So I think there's a lot of parallels here between the story that Barry had seen or had listened to on his drive to Pueblo, and now look where they have found Suzanne. It doesn't have the cactus. No, not the same place where they found her, Gemma. This is in Tucson, Arizona. Where they found Suzanne is in Moffett, Colorado. But if you took the cactuses out of this picture, if you took the cactuses out of this landscape, what would you be left with? You would be left in the flatlands of the boneyard in Moffett. If you think this is very similar landscape to what is Moffett, the topographical area, would you say they're incredibly similar? Put a 1 if you think they're similar. Put a 2 if you don't think so, not at all. Again, if you took the cactus away, right, because that's Arizona, but if you take the cactuses out, it's the same. It's flat, high desert. It's scrub brush, tumbleweeds. And then in the distance are these low rolling hills. And it took 7 months for hikers to stumble upon the remains. Even has the mountains, yeah. So it takes 7 months for them to find her. And by then, the animals had really done a number on the evidence value of the body, right? I'm trying to be respectful here. So I want you to remember this. Barry Morphew listened to this story on his drive to Pueblo. Now, at the time, we listened and we thought, wow, that's very interesting. The bicycle aspect is interesting and such, right? But we didn't really have a reason to be interested in the location where Vicky Lynn Hoskins was ultimately buried and found. But now, knowing what we know, mile marker 103, just across the little dirt road from the one single soul tree on the horizon, or I guess I should say live tree, she is found in a place identical to this, with the exception of the cactuses. You don't get a lot of cactuses in Colorado in the high country. You know what I mean? So interesting how people they can read a book or watch a movie or listen to someone on a bus have a conversation, and something about that experience will stick with them and will affect big decisions that they make. So is that the reason why there was a shallow grave? Is that what the hope was? That if she's put out here in this flat, boring, no man's land where there's no reason to be out there, there's no kind of recreational stuff, there no reason to be stumbling around and walking around out in that area. People just happen to stumble across the body. And if she stays out there for 6 months, a year, then by the time the animals get finished, there really won't be any evidentiary value to what they find. It's just a theory. Barry Morphew is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, probably by a jury of his peers. But from that perspective of why do people make decisions they do? What kind of things can influence us? Is it only the big important things close to us, or can we be heavily influenced by movies or memes that we see? We can be influenced by anything that we somehow find a connection to. And this story of Vicky Lynn Hoskinson parallels so closely to what we actually know about the case of Suzanne Morphew that we would be foolish to ignore it. All right. So this is pretty chilling when you look at the location where she was buried, where she was found. That is very hard to look away from.
She was in the Tucson desert for 7 months.
Very hard to look away. All right. So that is really the extent of the power of suggestion. Yes, Nancy, theory of mind. Where our mind is absolutely predicts where our body goes. That is absolutely true. Remember, I think there's two really important pieces of information out of this video today. One is Barry's denial, abject denial, that he took any paperwork into this hotel room at the Holiday Inn Express with him. We do know that he denied it twice. One time directly when Grusin said, "Now, are you sure?" Okay. And we got a picture. We know he had the file with papers hanging out of both ends of it, and it's commented on in the police report. So why'd you lie, Barry? Why would you lie? You even left a piece of mail in the trash can. And then you say, "Oh, well, there were people in the room after me." So what was that about? Why was this? What did Jeff Puckett say? Jeff Puckett himself says, "I felt like I was being set up. Felt like he was trying to make an alibi." Okay. The second important thing is his frame of mind as he listens to the disappearance, the story of Vicky Lynn Hoskinson, and how many parallels do we have now? We have the bicycle aspect. We have the BS about, oh, somebody saw a woman in a crossover, waving her hands wildly, saying, help me, I'm being abducted. And yet no one came forward to admit that they were the ones that said the story. But strangely, it matches what the coach at the school did see. And then the third is Vicky Lynn Hoskinson was buried in a shallow grave in the same type of environment as where Suzanne Morphew has now been found. That is very hard to ignore, y'all. All right, I'm going to say it one more time. Barry Morphew is innocent till he's proven guilty in a court of law. But we can discuss what is in the discovery. We can discuss the things that we've seen. We can talk about those things. But he is presumed innocent. All right. Kathy R said, one chemo port. My doc said drugs would be present in the port long after death unless it was flushed with bleach. Well, also, a lot of people are very familiar with the fact that the the hotel room smelled like bleach when Morgan and Jeff got to the hotel room. But do you remember that the house smelled heavily of cleaning products? So when the cops went into the house that night, they said it smelled like someone had been cleaning. So that is very interesting. All right. Okay. I know this was short, but that's okay because it is Wednesday night. It's the middle of my work week. All right. Crime Sleeping. Hey, girl. How are you doing? Dang it. Yeah, I missed something. A lot going on. Going back to the start. Okay. Bye, Crime Sleeping. Um, All right. And also, if you guys have not watched Crime Circus Drip Drop in, I don't know, a week or two, you really need to go listen. The last two videos that he's put up are just, well, like he says, boom, they're crazy. Okay, it is. It's hump day. Whoop, 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 woo. All right. I am out of here. You guys have a wonderful evening. And again, Drip Drop on Crime Circus has got some amazing information that relates directly to Idaho 4. All right. And look, I'm going to tell you straight up, he's freaked out. He's really afraid for his life at this point. He's stumbled into a hornet's nest and he's trying to protect his location and all that. So if you haven't been there in a while, because for a long time he didn't post anything, remember? And you kind of, when people don't post, people quit checking in. Well, the last two videos, oh, he posted. You need to go over there and listen if you're interested in the Idaho 4 case. It's really, really amazing. All right. I'm going to continue to put out these little blurbs related to the Barry Morphew case, the disappearance of Suzanne, to just try to bring it all current and fresh in everybody's mind again. Okay. Random, but the narrator sounds like this guy from a YouTube channel who travels visiting cemeteries and grave sites of famous people, crime victims, and poor little kids. He is, hold on a minute, and I will tell you what the channel is. Just 1 second. It is Faces of the Forgotten. He has 541,000 subscribers. So I am going to put a link to his channel. Paste. I would encourage you to go over and listen to the whole video on Vicky Lynn Hoskinson. Give him a subscribe and a like. That's the lifeblood of YouTube creators. And he may be the guy you're thinking of. It may be the same guy. The reason, keep trying. The reason that I chose that video, there's a ton of videos on Vicky Lynn Hoskinson, but the reason I chose that one is because he actually went to the location where she was found, and we get to see, shock, this looks like Moffett, Colorado, without the cactus, obviously. So that's why I use that video. So yeah, I would love for y'all to go over, tell him thank you, subscribe, give him a like, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you would, and please give me a thumbs up. But if you subscribe, you don't have to pay any money. It's not like joining the channel. You're just going to be able to get notifications of when I go live next and do a little blurb. All right? Okay. I will see you guys over on Drip Drop channel. See you later. Bye.